all the stars turned out to be so super. Coventry City, cup winners 3 years ago, knocked out last season by Sutton United, this time fell over Northampton Town. Steve Berry's goal brought them down. Port Vale's John Rudge knows how to grease the slippery pole too. He did it in '88 against Tottenham. He did it this time to Derby County in a replay and at the baseball ground what's more. Goal of the game followed a run by John Jeffers that covered 3/4 the length of the pitch. Nicky Cross applied the far post execution. Wimbledon, the cup winners of '88, went out to West Bromwich Albion. Strength, determination and an overdrive gear took Tony Ford into the penalty area. His cross invited the sliding interception. Gary Robson accepted. His big brother couldn't have timed it better. Luton had acquired the Wembley habit in the Littlewoods Cup, but Brighton made sure there was no encore in the FA Cup. Gary Nelson's goal was one of 4. It wasn't Tottenham's year either. Matthew Le Tissier set Southampton on the way to victory at White Hart Lane. West Ham got their comeuppance from a Torquay player who started the tie on the bench. Paul Hirons was the happy side.
Hughes with the kick.
17 years after the goal that won the cup for Sunderland, the wheel of fortune spun again for Ian Porterfield, now manager of Reading. His third division team knocked out Sunderland with a couple of goals from right-back Lyndon Jones. He hadn't scored at all in his previous 41 appearances. Liverpool began their defence of the trophy with a goalless draw at Swansea, but it all came right on the Tuesday night. Steve Nicholls' goal made it 8-0. There were still routes aplenty to get to Wembley. Of the 2 we'd followed since early September, Ian Bowyer's Hereford were at home to Walsall, bottom club in Division 3. A goal down for more than an hour, Hereford squeezed through by scoring twice in the last 4 minutes. Rochdale became Disneyland for the visit of Wickley Bay. Stung by suggestions that this was a Mickey Mouse draw, the 4th Division club laughed first and last. Early in the second half, Steve Johnson broke through the middle. And afterwards seemed to feel that he'd proved a point. There were also victories that weekend for 2 clubs who languished all season in the unhealthy half of the First Division. Crystal Palace's skipper Jeff Thomas had been on the bench for half a dozen games, but in the second half against Portsmouth, he steered his team into the 4th round. Rumour whispered that Alex Ferguson wouldn't survive if Manchester United, with only 4 points from their last 8 games, were knocked out at Nottingham Forest, but rumour was never put to the test.
Kept in by Martin. Hughes, he's got a lot of room. And here's Robbins.
The saviour was Mark Robbins, a 20-year-old whose scoring record in the reserves had earned him the chance to try where others had failed. Mascots are not meant just to lead the team out. They're supposed to embody good luck. When Chelsea played Bristol City, the luck got stage fright. Joe Jordan's team were high on the confidence that had taken them to the top of the 3rd Division.
Smith, Johnson, there might be something on here for City. Taylor, Shelton, oh, they're queuing up. Turner, is it number 2? Yes, the referee looks at the linesman. Chelsea look at everybody. Chelsea have contrived to commit suicide.
West Bromwich Albion and Charlton Athletic could almost have drowned themselves at the Hawthorns. In the end, it was Charlton who sank. Williams.
Mortimer outside him, never allowed to play the pass. Onside this time. And the congratulations for Tony Ford, well deserved.
When Millwall went to Cambridge, 10 agonising seconds summed up Millwall's season. David Thompson and Keith Brannigan suffered a total communications breakdown, demonstrating that in football, when you're down, someone is sure to trample all over you. Another of the game's truisms was re-emphasised when Queen's Park Rangers replayed with Arsenal. Kenny Sansom hadn't scored for Rangers since he left Highbury.
Oh, that's an absolute beauty. And I suspect that in the middle of all that, maybe Kenny Sansom. And now here's Wegerle. This could settle it. Sinton called for it. Shot well! And Queen's Park Rangers are certain of a fifth-round tie at Blackpool.
Liverpool had to replay too, but their disposal of Norwich then was typically efficient.
Good short touch by Beardsley, lovely return to him by Barnes. Rush in the middle waiting, so is Nicol. Nicol! Yes, to the goal! Stevie Nicol!
Sooner or later we felt sure our tour of Britain would catch up with the winter. We found it at Spotland, Rochdale's exposed home on the edge of the moors. All very picturesque. But 3 days later, the disappearance of the snow was as surprising as the gap that was left in Northampton's wall. Steve O'Shaughnessy didn't need to adjust his sights. Meanwhile, at Edgar Street, Hereford United put the beef on show. The question was, would Manchester United prove to be the beef eater?
Hughes. Again, a lovely turn by the Welsh international. Oh, it's Duxbury, the captain. Is he going to do the captain's job? He is. Clayton Blackmore. And in the end, it looked easy. But what an important contribution by Mike Duxbury.
Like Manchester United, Crystal Palace had lost both the league games they played since the third round. The home tie against Huddersfield Town was a 4-goal tonic. Mark Bright finished the best constructed move of the tie. In Oldham by this time, everybody was buzzing. Well, nearly everybody was buzzing with the great deeds that were being done at Boundary Park. Joe Royle's Latics, already on course for the Littlewoods final, had begun to look possibles for a Wembley double. 3 times in the 5th round they played Everton. There was a penalty in each game. The decider in extra time with the second replay.
And now Marshall with a penalty for Oldham. And he nearly buried that through the back of the net.
Another resurgent scene was Villa Park. Aston Villa were 7 times winners of the FA Cup, though not since 1957. Now, putting aside their challenge for the Championship, they strode into a local Derby Cup tie at the Hawthorns.
Matfields! White, good challenge again by McGrath. Certainly one of the contenders for man of the match, he and Mountfield. Here's Tony Daly, only up with him. Daly, still Daly! It's all over now. Villa are in round 6.
Cambridge United and Bristol City met 3 times. 0-0, 1-1. Then when the dam burst, the flood engulfed City. That was Lee Philpott's volley. John Taylor was made a present of the 5th, and that maintained his record of having scored in every round. Cambridge were in the last 8, a feat previously achieved by only 3 other 4th Division clubs. By now, our teams on the northern and southern roads to Wembley were virtually neighbours, though divisions apart. Rochdale were drawn away to Crystal Palace. They did it in style, a luxury stay in South London, repaid by the players on the pitch at Selhurst Park. Nobody could have done more than goalkeeper Keith Welsh. This fingertip save was one of many. When Phil Barber eventually beat him, it was the first goal Rochdale had conceded in 5 ties and more than 7 hours. In the last minutes, though, it was Welsh's opposite number, Nigel Martin, who denied Rochdale a replay. Manchester United played away too. At St James's Park, they and Newcastle kept their managers, not to mention the spectators, on their feet.
And they all miss it except Robbins. It's in. Robbins has done it again. Wallace! Yes! Oh, what a finish! What a finish! And he's down, and the ball is in. Ince looking for Wallace, and may have found him. Little touch, McClare!
The Oldham bandwagon was still rolling. A sympathetic draw gave them home advantage against Aston Villa.
Palmer again holds the ball up for somebody else. Somebody else this time is Holden. Good try! Off the crossbar! Back off the crossbar, hit the goalkeeper and went in. Gallagher. To the way to Warhurst. That's a lovely way to ball to Marshall. And the cover is by Price, and it's going in. An own goal by Price. Holden. Good stop, and it's in. It's Redfern, and it's 3.
Liverpool went to Queen's Park Rangers, where they'd already been beaten in the league.
Clark, Barker, Sinton coming in, and Grobbelaar, and Ray Wilkins! Oh, it's a goal! And Barnes, oh, brilliant! What a great free kick by John Barnes. 10.5 minutes left on the clock, and neither side here settling for the draw. Rangers can't afford to. Liverpool don't seem as though they want to. Gillespie well forward. Oh, he's got right through. And he's found Rush, and that's it. Ian Rush scores. Hussain. Barker. Barker's tricked his way through for Rangers. What a brilliant goal! Houghton. Oh, good little ball. It's Beardsley. 1-0 Liverpool.
Signposts to Wembley were getting fewer. For Manchester United to go all the way would mean setting a strange record. Drawn away in every round, each game played on a Sunday. First, they had to go to Sheffield United, with whom they could feel a certain kinship. Bramall Lane's upbeat season had been conducted in parallel with a takeover courtship full of Eastern promise. When the bride's family didn't take to the prospective groom, the marriage was called off, but it didn't exactly help concentration.
Wallace. Good back header. Hughes. McClare.
That left Crystal Palace to visit Cambridge, seat of learning, refuge of the independent mind, but not a renowned centre of excellence in professional soccer, until John Beck took over as manager of Cambridge United and introduced a cold shower routine that inspired the homely 4th Division club to unprecedented achievements.
O'Reilly and Barber. Thomas, it's gone in. Jeff Thomas has scored for Crystal Palace.
People try and sympathise with me before the game almost. They keep saying that anything can happen in a one-off situation. We are well capable of beating Liverpool, and we all believe that we have a chance on the day of getting to Wembley.
Here's McMahon. Cardew. And McMahon intercepting. Rush going to the left now. Onside, Ian Rush. Liverpool take the lead. And Ian Rush, the ace goal scorer, once again makes it look so easy. Well, let's see what Palace can do about it now in the second half as they attack the Holt End here at Villa Park. John Pemberton, a lovely run early on. And a chance for Barber and Venison. And it's a shot. And it's there by Bright. It's Mark Bright, straight from the kickoff. And now they've waved Andy Thorne up as well. Andy Gray has placed the ball. That's his cross. And Bright's there. O'Reilly's there! And Palace! Are they in front? Yes, they are! Staunton to Venison. Right across the goal. McMahon! Oh, it's there! It's 2-2! Steve McMahon! Virtually. Oh, look at this. Staunton! Penalty, Pemberton on Staunton. George Courtney has pointed the spot, and Pemberton is distraught. Barnes scores. The goalkeeper went the right way, but the kick was true in the corner, and Liverpool lead by 3 goals to 2. Thomas, and Bright's in there, and Thomas, Staunton, Gray! Gray, 3-3! Andy Gray for Palace, they're back in it! Thorne flicked it on, and it's gone in! Pardew! 4-3 Palace!
Holden again, trying to change the angle, open one, and Barrett! Earl Barrett, the scorer! What a mess for Manchester United. What a delight for Oldham Athletic. Hughes. Barrett. Bruce. And Robson! It's 1-1. Phelan. Slightly stubbed it, but it comes to Gibson, and it's Webb. Irwin. Redfern got away. It's good cross. Marshall! What an unbelievable day this is. Nicked away by McClare. Useful for Wallace. Test of his pace, now test of his finish. And he's equal to both. Milligan. Yes, the space here for Marshall. And Palmer's far side. It's all square again. Still Robson. Wallace. Robson just inside. Give it me back. He's screaming to be given it back. Wallace. Oh, it's going to go in, yes, McClare! The free kick is taken. Irwin, it suddenly opened up in front of him. Owen again. Milligan. Holden. Appeal for handball. Not given. Holden's cross, it's a bit short. And it runs to Ritchie! Andy Ritchie! Sudden increase in impetus again. Phelan. Robbins! Yes!
Over 12 rounds, 541 clubs have been pared down to 2. From the northeast and the southwest to the spruced-up old stadium itself, there's been many a winding road. Each dot on the map recalls a different story. Dogs and hairdressers, dreamers and superstars, all unified by a competition 118 years old. This time it started on September the 2nd, and now we are down to 2, Manchester United and Crystal Palace. But before we leave the stage to them, what of the 2 clubs where it all began on that September Saturday? Alnwick ended their season a fortnight ago. Among the opposition, a man who knew Wembley well.
Gray, who we should have slotted it through to. Oh, he's hit the ball! Well, he did the right thing in the end. But I thought he should have slotted it through to Giles, but what a shot.
Eddie Gray, once of Leeds United, now manager of Whitby Town, and still, when the call comes, the man on the ball. His presence was no surprise to Alnwick. They're accustomed up there to being a breeding ground for players capable of going all the way.
My first game here 6 years ago, we hadn't won all season. I joined them in January, this club, and they were bottom of the league, and Pallister was playing for Billingham Town, top of the league. And we actually managed to win that game. So 1 or 2 of our lads are still here who played in that game, and Gary Pallister's looking forward to a Wembley Cup final. That's what can happen in football.
In the south, Falmouth didn't complete their fixtures until this Wednesday, coincidentally at St Blaise, the pitch where they parted company with the road to Wembley in September. Goalkeeper Ian Morris, promoted from St Blaise reserves that day, is now established in the first team, and he's following in famous footsteps. Nigel Martin, Crystal Palace's £1 million keeper, wore the gloves for St Blaise only 3 years ago.
I'm a Liverpool fanatic, but that was one semi-final I wanted them to lose, and I think Nigel done his part as well.
The club's sponsors then were a carpet company just 50 yards down the road from Blaise Park, and it was the owner who recommended Nigel Martin to Bristol Rovers.
Going back 3 years, when Nigel played his last cup final was for St Blaise Football Club against Saltash, and here we are 3 years on. He's been sold for £1 million and playing in the FA Cup final. It defies belief.
This is Houghton, there's danger. Barnes! Oh, and Nigel Martin! Well, that save might have been worth £1 million, you never know.
Back in Cornwall on Wednesday night, Nigel Martin's successor at St Blaise was given a very busy time, and he responded well. But Falmouth were out to confirm their place as league champions, leaving St Blaise as runners-up. Then Falmouth's Tommy Matthews could express the sentiments of all Cornishmen about the local hero.
I think every self-reflecting Cornishman now will be rooting for Nigel at Wembley on Saturday, and you know, we all hope he does well. I think even the neutrals that don't support Manchester United or Crystal Palace will look towards Crystal Palace because of Nigel's connections.
Falmouth's George Torrance collected that trophy. Next week they play in Holland, and in just over 3 months' time they'll all start again, inspired by the cup that everyone cheers.
Well, it's been an interesting